My distinct pleasure to welcome the greatest player in Cincinnati Bengal history. He wore number 14, played quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. That's right, I'm talking about the legend, Ken Anderson, and he's here with us today. Good morning, my man. How you be?
Oh, good morning, Rumi. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Doing pretty well, man.
Hey, first of all, congratulations, big boy, coming up. Ring of Honor, so well deserved, and I'm excited to be there, part of it.
I appreciate that. You know, obviously, you're one of the early members, one of the earliest members of the Ring of Honor. It wouldn't be a Ring of Honor without number 14 up there on the wall of the stadium. That's for darn sure. And have that jersey retired. I mean, what did it mean to you, Kenny, when you got selected by the franchise to be an early member of the Ring of Honor?
Well, I mean, it's just, I was one of the lucky ones. Played my whole career here. Had a chance to coach here for 10 years. I mean, the franchise means a lot to me. It's important to me, and to be recognized into their Ring of Honor is a great sense of pride. And I think, and for you going in, of course, I think a lot of the audience, it's the 40 years behind the microphone that they remember. But what a great player you were. And, that's why you're going into the Ring of Honor, a great broadcaster, but you're going in because you were a great player on the field.
Well, I appreciate those kind words. I mean, you're being very generous. My old roomie, he's taking care of me like he always did. Definitely appreciate those kind remarks. We had some pretty good football teams, back in the day, right, Ka? I mean, in the 70s and early 80s. Well, heck, Super Bowl 16 in 1981, 80 beginning of 82, we go to Super Bowl 16. That team had great players. I mean, it had everything, every single position group that you put out in the football field could get it done, point blank. Really, really sound football players.
Well, and thinking back about this and what the team is going through now, and certainly, I went through that, into the 70s, towards the end of the 70s. We were as good as anybody in the National Football League, and then we took a dip down. And then, of course, in 81, we came back up and had a nice little run again. But, we had more than anything, I think, consistency in the O-line. When you talk about in the 70s, whether it's Rufus Mays, we had Howard Fest and Guy Dennis as our messenger guys. Bob Johnson was the number one draft choice. At center, John Shinners at guard. You came in at guard. We had Vernon Holland, the number one draft choice at right tackle. And, we had that consistency of the offensive line. And then, you go with, Anthony comes, and we got Max, and we got you, and Blair Bush was the number one draft choice. And we got Moon Pie, Mike Wilson at the right tackle. Again, had consistency in the offensive line, year in and year out, where you guys, I think, knew each other's strengths and weaknesses, and everybody, and that's how we could kind of design things to take advantage of it. And that's kind of, I think, where the Bengals are struggling a little bit now. It's, once again, we got, Orlando and Mims have been there for a while now, and certainly Ted, but, kind of the guards, come in and they're new. And I think it's just that consistency is just trying to figure that all out right now.
I agree with you, Kenny. I think they're trying to find a combination at the guard position offensively that's going to work for them, and work week in and week out, not just work for a series or a game, but something that they feel as a coaching staff that they can rely on from a game-to-game basis that's going to perform at a pretty darn high level. And I think the same thing at defensive tackle. I think they've got some edge, players that are have got some talent, obviously. Trey Hendrickson and Stewart, the number one pick. Both those guys have immense physical talent. The interior of the defensive line had been addressed. Jenkins, high draft pick, second-round pick out of Michigan. I mean, good football player. It's just something, I don't know exactly what it is. Can't put my finger on it. When I watch tape, it's like, what is it? Something's just missing in terms of a fit or whatever the case may be. The relationship between linebacker and defensive tackle needs to be strong, and at this point in time, it's really not right now. What are you seeing when you watch the Cincinnati Bengals in the interior of their offensive line, the interior of their defensive line?
Well, like I say, I think they haven't been, consistent.
Yeah,
You know, one thing we could always kind of hang our hat on is, running the football
yep,
consistently. And,
yep,
they, for a half a game, they run the ball really well. And then where did it go? And the same thing from a defense, they'll play well, get a couple turnovers, and then all of a sudden, you get gashed. And I think it's everything trying to, learn everything at the same time to get it to be cohesive, which has just been a struggle right now.
yeah. It really has. I mean, cohesiveness has been a big time struggle. We played for some phenomenal coaches, head coaches and assistant coaches. Paul Brown and Forrest Gregg come to my mind, as two of the best head coaches that I ever played for,
Yeah.
and then an assistant like Bill Walsh. And I was fortunate to have an assistant as an offensive line coach, Bill Tiger Johnson. When you've got coaches like that can help, mold you as a player, help bring out the best in you, help you take the best parts of you to the football field against the opponent and help your team win football games. How lucky were we to be drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals and to have those coaches molding us when we were young players?
Well, yeah, and I think on the defense, Chuck Studley, a great defensive line coach, not only here but then when he went with Bill Walsh to San Francisco, Vince Costello, Jack Donaldson we had as a running back coach.
Yep.
I mean, we had in those days it's kind of funny. We only had 3 on offense and 3 on defense and a head coach. They were great football coaches. Tiger Johnson was on the All-Century team as a center.
Yeah.
But became a great coach for us. So, we were lucky there. But I think the Bengals do have good coaching.
I do too.
I am still a big believer in Zach as the head coach, and I think the assistant coaches he's got are really top notch, good people, good coaches.
Yep.
But like I say, it seems like there's always been that influx every year. Whether it's who's playing linebacker this year, who's playing defensive back, who's going to be the safeties, who's going to be the guards. It's just there's been a lot of interchangeable parts, and you haven't had that consistency over a year or so.
And to compete in the AFC North, which is the division that the Bengals are competing in, that's about as tough as there is in the National Football League, top to bottom. I think it might be the best in the National Football League. So you're going to play each one of those teams twice. There's 6 games right there of your schedule that are going to be tough opponents. You're going to have to, do your due diligence in terms of study, getting ready for that game mentally as well as physically, taking care of yourself, good diet, rest at night, all that kind of thing. This football team, it has to be at its best on a weekly basis, and when it's not, we saw what that looked like, last week, and. But I don't think they could have played any worse. I think that's about as poorly as they could have played, and unfortunately it happened, pretty early in the season.
Well, and the thing is they're going down looking pretty good, and then it's the interception for a touchdown. And then, it gets to be late in the game. We're still within striking distance. It becomes the fumble for a touchdown.
Right.
If we could have not had those turnovers go down, put points on the boards, who knows what, happens, because we're still within a touchdown, 10 points at that point of game. But we've both been involved in those games when it gets out of hand and snowballs. It's tough to stop.
Right.
And I guess luckily for us we never got beat that badly.
Yeah, right. That was a record.
Yeah. I know, but like I said, we both know that when things go downhill, they get that slippery slope, but it's tough to get off.
Yeah, it's no question. Hard to get back on your feet. There's no doubt about that on that slippery slope. The Cincinnati Bengals, need to put on go on a winning streak. Thinking back to the real excellent seasons that we had with the Cincinnati Bengals as football players, we won a bunch in a row. We just we didn't care who it was. Hey, we're good. we're ready. I mean, we're as good as anybody in the National Football League. Confidence sky high, all-time high. Nothing was going to bring us down. We just felt like world beaters, and there wasn't there wasn't any mortal that was gonna be able to change that. That was an unbelievable feeling playing on those football teams. What was that experience like for you as a quarterback?
Well, I mean, it's just, you could count on everybody, That was the thing is that, I was blessed to be behind a good offensive line. I knew what they were going to do, so I just had to do my job. If we were struggling on offense, we knew we had a defense that was going to keep things under control. I mean, when you look at, the corners, Kenny Riley, Lamar Parrish, who's going in to the Ring of Honor, Tommy Casanova and those guys, Neil Craig at safety, the linebacker defensive line, they were a great defense to go along with it.
Yeah.
And then I think back to those days that has there ever been a more dynamic punt return duo than Lamar Parrish and Tommy Casanova?
Right.
I mean, gosh, one was Tommy was that glider and cut for a touchdown, and Lamar was that jitterbug for a touchdown.
Right.
But we kind of had all the pieces, and then but it goes to be all of a sudden it's we went through some tough times in '78 and '79.
Yeah, no doubt.
I started in '78 when I broke my hand in the last preseason game and missed the start of the season, and '79, I said that was the worst Bengals team I was ever on.
Right.
It was God. We were lucky we won a game. But like I say, it's football's a funny game. It's great when it's going well, but man, it eats at your soul when it's not.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Fortunate to be going into the Ring of Honor, like you so kindly congratulated me on to start the podcast here with Leaping Lamar Parrish. This guy. What a freak. What a genetic phenomenon athlete Lamar Parrish was. I mean, as you mentioned, unbelievable punt return, kickoff return guy, but a Pro Bowl corner. I mean, a cover guy that was extraordinary. Had great years, Pro Bowl years with the Cincinnati Bengals, then had Pro Bowl years with the Washington Redskins, then Redskins. Lamar Parrish, when you had a guy like Lamar Parrish, quarterbacks – He put up numbers when quarterbacks weren't necessarily going to put the ball in his area. They wanted to stay away from Lamar Parrish if they possibly could. Problem was when we had Kenny Riley as well,
Right. And I think, Kenny was the beneficiary of that, and that's why he had, it was 64 interceptions in his career.
Right.
And people may not have wanted to go against Kenny, but, geez, there wasn't any easier task going over or go against Lamar, but it wasn't any easier against Kenny. But two different styles of guys.
Yeah.
Lamar, again, I kind of, the jitterbug, the feet and all that other thing, and real quick feet. And Kenny was kind of that smooth glider. You didn't realize how good he was because of how smooth that he played.
Right. Well, looking forward to this Ring of Honor induction, it just makes me go back to my whole football history. It's like I was too big, weight limit. I couldn't make the weight limit as a youth playing youth football, but I played.
That's a shock right there.
Right. I played high school football, college football, and then the NFL. And I know Leaping Lamar played probably a ton of football in his lifetime as well. But the game, it teaches you so much. Teamwork, camaraderie, goal setting. Set achievable goal, and as you achieve those goals, mark them off. That one, cross that one. I got that one, got that one, got that one, and you can carry it over to your life. Your life's work, whatever you may be. You got into coaching. You were a successful football coach. Some guys get into sales. Bob Johnson got into sales and marketing of adhesives and rose to running the company. Before his retirement, Bob Trumpy became, number one analyst with NBC. I think football just it makes you so competitive, right? To do as well as you possibly can do, no matter what you're doing.
Right. But the thing is, I think to do as well as you can do, but everything is reliant on the other 10 guys on the field,
right,
for you to be successful. True. And I think, when you look back and just the different personalities we had in a locker room.
Yeah.
The backgrounds that everybody
Yeah.
came from, and you learned how to get together to be successful. And we may not have been best friends with everyone, and you didn't socialize with everyone, but when you were there in the locker room, it was everybody
Yep.
for one goal, and that's to win a football game, and to learn how to deal with those situations with the different personalities, the different cultures, the different backgrounds that everybody came. I think that was a great life lesson.
Can't agree with that comment more. I mean, it it teaches you everything you need to know in order to be a success in life. It really does. It's pretty remarkable. Let's switch gears. I want to get you into the coaching side of this with you. I know that you could have done anything. You could have done anything you wanted when you were done with the game of football here in Cincinnati and in this area. And you were successful in a bunch of different things. You're a talented guy, very intelligent, can do anything. What was it about coaching that drew Kenny Anderson like a magnet to want to coach in the National Football League?
Well, that was always my dream growing up. I mean, from ever I can remember, when you started high school, that my Uncle Gary, who was always like my older brother.
Right.
My folks finished raising him, and he was 12 when I was born. But he became a high school math teacher and football and basketball coach, and that's what I wanted to do.
Huh.
And so, I mean, that's what I went to Augustana for, is to become a math teacher, high school math teacher, and a football and basketball coach.
That's great.
In fact, it's I didn't have any aspirations of playing in the NFL. I said, when I went to college, I wasn't even going to play football. I always tell people that I always thought basketball was my favorite sport. Baseball was my best sport.
Yeah.
And you played at a small school, you played football to get you to basketball season. So, I was going to Augustana to play basketball and baseball.
Wow.
And it was it was June 28th. I still got the letter over here on the wall somewhere.
Really? That's great.
That I wrote to the coach to see if I could try out for the football team. And he wrote back, because I was never an all-conference quarterback. There were always two better than me in the little 7 conference and out of where Batavia played.
Right.
But I was an all-conference safety.
Huh.
So I kind of touted that to him. He said, we're always looking for good defensive backs. So, but somehow ended up at quarterback. But, it's, like I said, I liked, that part. As a player, I always enjoyed the weeks leading up to a game, sometimes more than the game. It was deciding how you're going to attack a team, to work that plan to get the perfection, to go out and be successful on Sundays. The games sometimes for me were just kind of anticlimactic. And that was as a coach, I love the grind of the week leading up to a game, of putting a game plan together and getting your guys to execute the plan. So that, like I said, coaching was always in my background.
So I'm not sure how many people realize this. When I found out, my jaw dropped. I was in amazement, and both my brothers, when I told them, they were like, "You got to be kidding me! That's unbelievable. Is that some kind of a? I don't think I've ever heard anything like that before." Kenny Anderson and Dan Issel, all NBA player. I mean, great basketball player. University of Kentucky, and then in the ABA with Kentucky, and you guys played high school basketball together, right? Were you in the back court and he was in the front court?
Yeah, he was a year older
center.
than I was.
Okay.
But I tell you, we had some great games. His backyard and my backyard abutted each other.
Huh.
We only had a single car driveway, but he had a double car, so that his basketball, we got more games over there. But and then we had a group in the neighborhood, and that was always great for me. That I remember it was Dick Hallman and Tim and Tom Nelson, and they were always 3 years older, and of course Dan was there, and they always needed to fill out the numbers. They needed another guy, and I was always that guy. So I'm always kind of playing with older kids.
Yeah.
But Dan, you talk about being a dominant player. In high school, he could have averaged 50 a game.
Really?
But he didn't. He made sure everybody was involved in the game. And And gosh, I remember the worst season I had in basketball from seventh grade to a senior was 26-4.
Are you
And
kidding? Oh my gosh.
but unfortunately, we just, and in Illinois at that time, there was only one class of basketball. So the small schools went in at the district level, and we would win our 3 games there and go to the regions. And that's where all the bigger schools came in. You
Ah,
win 3 games there and into the session. We kind of always get to that point, but we didn't have enough Dan Issels on our team to compete with some of the Chicago area teams. So we always went out in the final 32. But it was just, that was our town kind of lived for basketball.
really?
Our gym may have sat 1,500. And if you weren't there for the first game, the fresh soft game, you weren't going to get a seat for the varsity game. So it was always great as a freshman and sophomore. You're playing before a packed house.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool. Oh man, I'll tell you what, sports have been good to us. I mean, it's a great way to live your life. And now as the honors start to come in, and you've gotten some well-deserved honors over the course of your career, and after your career has ended, where does this one stack up? Where does the Ring of Honor stack up with you and your family, Ka?
Well, I think it's at the top of the board. That you come and play 16 years for a franchise and
Man,
be recognized for that and for the contributions you made. It doesn't get better than that. I'm in my high school Hall of Fame and my college Hall of Fame, and
nice.
the National Quarterback Club. I didn't know they had such a thing, but I'm in their Hall of Fame as well.
How about that?
That was a nice little trip to Scottsdale.
Cool.
Played a little golf, catch a red spring training game. That was always nice.
Yeah, no,
But
good deal.
no, but it's like once a Bengal, you're always a Bengal, and no, you still live and die with them, and you still root for them, and you wish you could still play, but a couple of knee replacements and back surgery later, you realize you can't. But it's just been fun for me because we got great guys in that locker room, and not only great players, but I think, we see this, everyone knows what Joe Burrow does with, his food insecurity and childhood mental health issues and all
Right,
that.
right.
And Sam Hubbard and what he did and a lot of that. But, you see these other guys out on Mondays, doing stuff in the community. They don't need any recognition for it. They're trying to make other people's lives better. We got a lot of those guys in the locker room. And that's why they're going to be successful, is because they're good football players, but they're good people. And I went down to practice one day, training camp, and
Right.
you were there in your golf cart, and you provided a little shade for my 2 grandsons that were down there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of between drills, and they're there, and they're a little bit. What they also do is waiting to get autographs at the end, and they got a half-filled water bottle. They're flipping it, trying to get it to stand up. And the next thing you know, here comes T. Higgins. He's down on the ground with them. How many tries do I get? And he's there for 10 minutes playing this game with my grandsons. And you see all the guys like that.
Yeah.
And like I say, it's just, they're a good group of guys. They're good football players. And I got every confidence in the coaching staff that they're going to get it figured out and we're going to be okay. And like we were talking earlier, they're 2-1.
Yeah.
I mean, before the start of the season, we talked about the 0-2 starts, and what Zach was 1-11 in his 6 years, and in the first 2 games of the season, and we said, well, they're going to be 2-1 after 3. I'm in.
I hear you.
Sign me up for that. So,
I'm with you.
And then you watch practice all the time, and these guys work at practice.
Yep.
There's no going through the motions. I mean, they are attentive. They work. They're giving their best efforts on a day-to-day basis. They work in the weight room. That was, there was, talking to Joe Burrow a little bit. He was excited about the morning workouts in training camp because that way when you went to lift, you could really give it your all. You didn't have to worry about saving anything for practice. Practice is over with. Now, man, here, let's go.
Right. Right.
And these, like I say, it's we got quality coaches, quality players, and I feel good about where we're going to be.
So do I, Kenny. And I'll tell you, the fan base is excited, and the fan base is, over the moon about, like you talked about, the quality of player, the quality of person. many fans. I've heard so many fans like, they'll get an autograph. My gosh, he's so nice. I mean, he's a really good dude, and he works so hard. That's the thing. My son's at practice watching, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow when healthy, and these guys, they just work so hard, and it made such an impression on my son that, hey, in order to get to the best, to be the best in the world at your profession and play in the best league in the world, you have to bust your butt. You have to work at it. It's not given to you. It doesn't come easy. And they said the biggest thing that I got out of today, and that I know my child get out of today, is how hard you have to work, what kind of a commitment you have to make. And they said it was worth making the trip for that reason only, because I can talk about it to them, and they're looking at me, and it's just words coming out of my mouth. But when they see it, and they see it being demonstrated by guys like this that they worship and they idolize, makes a huge impression. And that's a big deal, isn't it?
Oh no, it is. And you sit there and you watch practice, and our defenses have struggled at times, but you watch them in practice going against our number one offense, which I think is pretty doggone good.
Right.
And they are holding their own, if not more.
Yeah.
And then you see the plays that our offense is making. That they've got it in them. Now I think it's just we got to figure out a way on Sundays to make it happen a little bit more often. Especially it's no secret it's going to be hard without Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
For 3 months. But Jake came in and a couple years ago and got us to the last game of the year. We win that game where we got a shot at the playoffs.
Yep.
So it's I know, especially after a game where you get blown out, it's it's doomsday everywhere. But these guys, they'll figure it out. And we got Monday night coming up, and these guys tend to show up when the bright lights are on.
No question about it, Kenny. Let me ask you, because you are the greatest greatest player in franchise history, greatest quarterback, therefore, and you're incredible with your athleticism, your accuracy, how you threw the football. When you look at Jake Browning and you look at Jake Browning's mechanics and fundamentals and techniques that he employs and everything that goes along with it, and how he sees the game, how he studies the game, and how it translates on the field for him, how he maneuvers, how he tries to buy time and get the ball to places on the football field. Give me your evaluation of Jake Browning as a talent at the quarterback position.
I think we're lucky to have him.
I agree.
I think he's a pretty good football player.
I agree.
I mean, we saw that, and when Joe gets hurt and the game was on the line, he's 92 yards down the field, and we score a touchdown to win the game.
Yep.
I think a lot of it for a quarterback is when you haven't played a lot. I mean, he didn't hardly play at all last year, and
Yep.
You get a few training camp snaps, that kind of stuff. It's just getting acclimated when the bullets are live, and being, and getting, more settled in your pocket movement, here and there, knowing when to slide, when to throw, when to move. And I think that the more you play, the more that's going to come. So I think he's going to be, just fine because, mechanically he throws the football very well. He's smart. You don't have to change the game plan a lot. I think one thing, the last time that he was playing, you saw him under center more. You saw a little more of the run game,
Right.
and a little more of the play action passes to get guys open deep. So I'm hoping,
Right.
We can do that a little bit more, and and establish something, with the running game a little bit more. And I think we got running backs that can do it. We just need just a little bit more from the O-line, and then because we can run it, it's going to sure help out pass protection.
No question. I'll second that. I haven't played that spot. You can run it. Pass protection becomes so much easier. Play action pass, like you talk about. I mean, it's like, man, night and day. So, Paul Brown, legend. He drafted Otto Graham, and he said Otto Graham was the greatest player he'd ever seen, and Otto Graham was a great baseball player and everything. And then fast forward, he drafts Ken Anderson, and I had conversations with PB about it. He said, I just feel like the most fortunate man in the history of football. The good Lord bless me. I picked the two best quarterbacks to ever play the game at the professional level, Otto Graham and Ken Anderson. He goes, it's remarkable. He said, when I think about it, and, my wife has said, think about it, Paul, how fortunate you are that you had Otto Graham and Ken Anderson running your offense. Who can even come close to saying that? And he said, nobody can, nobody can. What does that mean?
Don't put me in the same class as Otto. He played for the Browns 10 years.
Yeah.
He got to the last game of the year, all 10 years,
That's
and
unreal.
won 7 of them.
7,
which is remarkable. So in those terms, he'd be 7-3 in Super Bowls. And now some of them were in the old AAFC.
Yeah.
And then of course the Browns, the first year when they moved to the NFL, they win the whole doggone thing.
Right.
So Otto was special, and you talk about that in the off season. He played professional basketball for the Rochester Royals.
Unbelievable.
So truly, and a funny guy. I was blessed to know him later on in life, and he was always a prankster, and he was always talking a lot. And I remember they used to have a great golf tournament, the American Airlines tournament, where a football player and baseball player from the same city would play together. So I'm playing with Johnny Bench, who's
nice.
a little over my head in these things. But Otto was playing with Joe DiMaggio.
Oh boy!
And DiMaggio doesn't say a whole lot, but they're a team. And Joe's getting ready to hit, just about ready to take it back. And Otto said, "Do you feel that gust of wind? You got enough club in your hand?" And DiMaggio backs off, and just get ready to hit again. Now you got water on the left. Now you want to make sure you play. He's just driving Joe DiMaggio crazy with all these little things that he's saying, but he was a great guy.
Oh man! So, did Paul Brown ever say to you, and this would have been when you were coaching, in a meeting, did he ever say, here's what I needed to have in a quarterback. Here's what I was looking for when I was scouting quarterbacks and talking to my personnel people about looking for a great quarterback. These are the characteristics. These are the traits. These are the things that I felt that were requirements, necessities. And I mean, he knew Paul played the position too, the quarterback position. Did he ever talk to you about what he wanted in a quarterback that you might be in the draft room on draft day, being a part of? Yeah, let's take him. He's there. We were hoping he might be there. Let's take this guy. Did he ever converse that way?
No, not really. It's just you kind of read a lot of things, and
Yeah.
I've read a lot of Paul Brown books that he really regarded intelligence at the quarterback position,
Yep.
and I think unselfishness to a certain extent, not being concerned with your own statistics. So I think maybe that's a thing that Otto and I might have had in common. But I think it's just quarterbacks have different styles to figure out ways to win. And like I say, I was so fortunate to be here to be able to play with good players.
Right.
I mean, like I say, in the early mid 70s, we were as good as anybody. In the early 80s, we were as good as anybody. And I still stay in touch with Archie Manning. And here's a guy, a great quarterback, but never played on a winning team.
That's unreal.
Now, he was with New Orleans, I think Minnesota, and Houston for a year. But I was just, when I had a great draft class. It was Jim Plunkett, it was Archie Manning, Dan Pastorini, it was Lynn Dickey, and myself, then Joe Theismann. And I remember I guess it was the Mahomes and all this kind of a year, the quarterback kind of Trubisky, a lot of good quarterbacks in the first round.
Right.
And they did an article in Sports Illustrated about our draft class, the first year of the quarterback in 71.
Wow.
And Plunkett was the one that says Kenny was the lucky one. He got to go to Cincinnati in a stable franchise with Paul Brown and Bill Walsh. And when you think about it, he's the number one pick. He goes
Yeah.
to New England and had no success. He gets traded to the 49ers, has no success,
Right.
ends up with the Raiders, good players, and goes to a Super Bowl. I mean, he's the same quarterback, but you're a product of those, the other 10 guys around you. And that's where I was blessed, to have you guys, you guys in front of me, and Isaac Curtis and Trumpy and Speedy Thomas and Eric Crabtree and Essex Johnson, who's a good running back as we've ever had here. To play with good people. And then, like I said, we cycled down and the level went back up. And, we were only 6-10 in 1980, but we knew we were going to be pretty good.
Right.
And once that new system of offense that Lindy brought in, Lindy Infante was a great offensive coordinator. We came in, and then all of a sudden we get some tall, skinny guy named Collinsworth.
Yep.
We had a tight end that could catch any Danny Ross. Isaac is still going. I mean, Kreider was just, he was our third wide receiver, could have played for anybody. And, Big Pete Johnson and Charlie Alexander. But like I say, it's, it's Munoz, it's you, it's Blair Bush, it's Max, it's Bujnak, it's Moon Pie. We had the studs up front.
It is amazing. I do think that football is the ultimate team sport. Because there are 11 pieces, and this final thought, and maybe a quick reaction from you on this. I mean, it's like there are 11 pieces, and every single person has a responsibility, a role to make the entire unit better. It takes a unit, as the old saying goes. Nowhere else is that more important than in the game of football. What do you think?
Oh, no question. I mean, you watch basketball, it's there is a team concept, but it's still an individual sport.
Right.
And baseball, the same thing. I mean, you got to coordinate a defense, that kind of stuff, but it's still an individual doing it. Where if it's in football, you like I say, you aren't going to be successful in any play unless everyone does their job. If it's an off tackle play, the key block, maybe the flanker coming in and blocking a strong safety. It's if we got a counter play call and you don't get your down block, well then the pulling guard or tackle's got no chance to come around and make his job.
Right.
So,
right.
If you're throwing, I mean, I got to, I'm running a route. I know I'm just a clear out. Well, if you don't clear out, then we don't have Danny Ross going to the corner. So you've got to be unselfish. And you've got to put the team first.
K.A., Mr. Ken Anderson, Hall of Famer, should be. Ring of Honor member, great player, excellent coach, football savant, basically. I mean, football has been a big part of your life. I can't thank you enough for carving time. I know there's plenty of things that you can do and you'd rather do. But I got to tell you, there's nothing I'd rather be doing than sitting here talking football with you.
You're
so kind.
But like I say, it's why those teams were special is, when we quit playing a long time ago, but we've still remained best of friends.
Yep.
It's still Johnson, it's still Trumpy, it's still Anthony, and I played golf with Max the other day, and Jimmy Breach and just all the guys that are in the area. And, you still stay in touch with Isaac, although he's out in California most of the time, you still stay in touch. And, glad that these guys are coming back. And, it's just like we get together over a beer. It's like we never left.
Yeah.
It's the bowling alley all over again, Dave.
The bowling alley up in Wilmington. Oh, there's some great stories there, boy. Great stories. That would be another whole podcast, Wilmington bowling alley stories. Kenny, I can't thank you enough. You're the best. You're the man. My best to you and your family. Hope everybody's doing well, my man.
Well, you get out to Denver and bring us a win, will you?
Got to do it. Let's go
I'll
get
put
it.
On you.
Let's
I'll
go
put
get
it on you. Okay.
I'll take
Thanks,
it.
Dave.
Appreciate you, man. Have a good one.
You too.
Dave Lapham here. While games are over for the season, there's no off-season for In the Trenches with Dave Lapham or First Star Logistics. First Star Logistics gave away great prizes during the season, which will continue with exclusive content in the First Star Media Group YouTube channel. So please, do me a favor. Subscribe to In the Trenches, hit the like button, and visit the First Star Media Group YouTube channel for exclusive content and special giveaways.